Hi, it's Colin from watchoffthecuff.com. Today we're going to talk about troubleshooting tips when you have replaced the battery on your Quartz watch and it is no longer working. This is a very common situation, especially I find post-COVID. I have customers come to me and they're like, yeah, this died somewhere during COVID. I wasn't going anywhere. I haven't replaced the battery. They bring it to me, I put it in, and immediately the watch doesn't work despite the fact that I put a fresh battery in there. So a couple of words of warning. Number one, I recommend people do not buy battery cells from the dollar store. They typically are not of high quality and they may be expired. Even I have to check. I keep in stock about 60 different types of batteries, and I have to watch what's expired or not. Because sometimes if they're a very unusual battery type, they simply sit in the drawer too long. So anyway, so a couple of things before we start. I'm going to be using a small fiberglass brush. We'll do a close-up on the bench for that. And I have two basic troubleshooting tools. One of them is the Horotec Pulse, and the other one is the Horotoc Turbo. And I'm going to show you these items in action on the bench. Hold tight. Okay, you've just replaced the battery in your watch and it's not working. Here's a couple of things we can check to troubleshoot it. So first of all, I'm going to remove this battery. Just got a release lever here. I'm going to pop it out. And then I'm going to go to the contacts with this brush, and one of them is right here. And I'm going to make sure that that's not corroded. I'm going to gently rub that with the brush. Make sure I have a puffer and get rid of any debris. And then I can do the same thing. In this case, it's quite good. I can always take this and I was going to say this particular model, it makes very good contact, but we can take the other side where it's making contact, give that a brush and give that a pop. Then I would put the battery back in and I would use the two following tools to fix the problem. Okay, so I'm going to use a watch from my own watch brand, Jakob Eitan, as an example. We're going to pretend that we've put the battery in here, and let's pretend for a moment it is not working. I'm going to take this Horotec Pulse. I'm going to place the watch over. I'm going to turn it on, and you can see it's going to indicate the timing circuit is sending the pulse to the small driver coil. Now, what will sometimes happen is you will put this on the Horotec Pulse. It will not hear a pulse at all, and that could mean that the battery is not making contact. Maybe the driver coil has been nicked by a screwdriver while you were changing it and you destroyed the coil. But this way, if it's not moving, but you do see the pulse, that you know the timing circuit itself is working and the issue is mechanical rather than electrical. So if it isn't moving at all, or it's moving erratically, I can now use the Horotoc Turbo and I'll bypass that circuit, and with higher torque, I will run the second hand around the dial. You can see here it's going to race around. Now sometimes you have to move the watch around to make sure that the magnetic field that this is creating is lining up with the coil inside. So the other thing that would happen sometimes is you'll change a battery and maybe you'll have it under test till the next day, till the customer picks it up and it is stopped or it's not keeping time. Running this for a few minutes will usually loosen up the gears if they're a little bit tacky. These days, a modern battery typically has a gel solid, not a liquid. You know, the classic thing when you've got your remote control car as a kid, you leave the AA batteries and they leak all over. That does happen sometimes, but these days, a modern battery, the seal can still break and it lets out a fume that has a very particular smell. So sometimes when you open up the watch and it has a smell, like sometimes it smells a little bit fishy, that means that typically the battery cell has leaked and that fume will go through and it does affect the parts. It can jam it up. So this way you can do this. You can do this for as long as you want, and then that'll typically release the gear train. With the price these days of a Quartz movement, it's quite often less expensive to just buy a brand new Quartz, move it, replace it, than to troubleshoot the issue, especially if you've got a problem like the driver coil and it's not working at all. With an intact stem, for example, you can take out the stock stem, put it in. It's a very easy changeover. To service the Quartz movement, we'd have to remove the hands and dial anyway, so it really doesn't add any extra work. And then, the customer has a brand new Quartz movement in there and their watch is literally like new. Anyway, with these two tools, you should be able to troubleshoot why your Quartz watch is no longer working, even after a fresh battery change. Cheers.